What's your biggest retirement question? Whatever it is, you'll find answers here. It's time for Ease into Retirement.
It's time once again to ease into retirement with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management. Thank you so much for tuning into the show as we talk investing, finance, and retirement with Tom. And his team is serving you here in Southern California. His team of all-star advisors and his amazing support staff ready to help you get to and through retirement with that complimentary written retirement blueprint. Get yourself onto the calendar and have a conversation for yourself at 855-526-1600 to get started today. 855-526-1600 for that consultation at the office in Anaheim or Arcadia, Encino, Ontario, San Diego, or just over Zoom if you'd like. So they are here to help, but you got to take that action at 855-526-1600. We got a great show lined up this week. Tom, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Can't believe this year's almost over.
I know, right?
My goodness, it's like we're it's not a matter of waiting around for the holidays. We're there.
Yeah, it's upon us for sure. Hey, a little fun fact before we dive into this. It was 61 years ago this past, just this past week, I suppose. I don't remember the exact date, but the Stones appeared for the first time on the Ed Sullivan Show back in 1964. And they're still going.
I know, but I remember that. I remember that Sunday night. I didn't normally get to watch the Ed Sullivan Show, but I remember that night I sort of snuck into the TV room there because we only had one TV in the house, and you had to hit it at the right place to get it to work. And I remember stepping in and watching that. That's unbelievable that it's that long.
I know.
The old joke was that if Jesus had come back during the 60s, he would have had to appear first on the Ed Sullivan Show because that's where everybody
was at.
Everybody came there first,
Yeah. And Mick is still rolling at 80-something. I mean, running across stages. He's had heart surgery. I mean, just a marvel. He's just a marvel.
And his voice is not that bad. I mean, some of them, they keep selling tickets, but they can't sell the voice anymore. But
I love the Stones, but let's be fair. He was never the greatest singer, right? But he does what he does for the Stones well, and it's held up for what he does. So
he was just there for his beauty, right?
His dance moves. Yeah, for sure. Well, anyway, so kudos to the Stones for doing what they do. And actually, I mentioned that because we're going to have a little fun here with what our Halloween costume says about us. I know it's technically like right after Halloween here, but that's okay because a lot of people still have parties over the weekend, especially, since it falls on a Friday, right? Since it fell on a Friday this year. So I think maybe I'll go with Mick Jagger to the party I'm going to go to. So maybe that'll work out really well.
That would be good. I want to see the dance moves.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but we'll see. But we'll have a little fun with this, all right? So, if you're going to something, this Saturday night or, whatever the case might be, or you went to something, maybe what does it say about you if you went as a scary entity? Do you go as scary, right? So what does that say financially about your maybe your philosophical viewpoint, Tom? What do you got?
Well, let's work on this, okay? So if you're scary, you put up the zombie-like stuff and you're a creepy clown or something like that.
Yeah, I can't do the creepy clowns. No.
Yeah, I've got one daughter that never liked Chuck E. Cheese's because of all the costumes that she had to go in. But if you like scary, that probably means, let's translate that over into the financial realm. That means you like to live life on the edge, okay?
Risk taker, yeah, okay.
Risk taker, you got it, and stuff. And, you're ready to go with every new plan that comes along. And the nice thing about scary is you probably have a different outfit for every year because there's something different that's scary every year because they can't sell you the same costumes they sold you last year. You might not buy a new one.
And people are into it. My buddy, he creates his own every year, so I get it, yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Scary, risky, create your own every year. There's some people that are that way financially. I mean, they are just all over the place all the time. One couple sticks in my mind from about 15 years ago. And a guy came in, he was a real talker and he was talking all the time and she was just real quiet over there. And when we got to talking about their money and where their assets were, he first led off by saying, well, I've always been the risk taker. I've made a ton of money and, a lot of ups and downs in the market. And my wife over there, she's this conservative Betty, I think is what he called her. And she's not the risk taker. So when we got to the amounts and I started looking at their statements, Literally, he had $28,000 and she had $786,000. So there's the risk taker. I mean, he's out there, and you have to take some risk. I don't think you do need to be a scared Betty, but you have to put a little makeup on sometimes and take some risk and take a chance in making some money. A lot of people want to keep, I want to be safe, Tom. I've never lost anything. I've put all my money in the bank. Well, those people who put all their money in the bank have usually not kept up with inflation.
Right.
And therefore, if you don't stay up with inflation, you may be saving money, but it's all on you. There's no growth from your money. In other words, I've heard it said so many times this way: you're not letting your money grow for you. But throwing it to the wind, scary? No. So there's some level of risk that you need to find out what you're comfortable with, where your portfolio rests, and you need to match those up. If your portfolio's not very risky and you're a risk taker, then you need to crank up the risk. But if you're not a risk taker and your broker has got you, or your financial advisor has got you into something that's way, way, way too risky, why do they do that? They do that so you'll make money and not leave them right now. But what happens in the next downturn? If you're in retirement, you probably don't need to put on all the makeup and put on all the scary and take all the risks. So it might say something about you if you like the scary costumes all the time and you move that over into your investment field.
Okay. All right. Pretty good job on that. I like that. Now, what if is this you, Tom? Are you the cutesy type? Are you the feel-good costume? You like to make people smile kind of person if you were dressing up?
Oh, man, you like to be the tooth fairy or a ladybug and,
make people smile. Yeah.
Yeah, you just a feel-good costume, like you say,
Yeah.
And some people like feel-good investments. There's what's known, it's cropped up in the past 10 or 15 years, called ESG investing, environmental social governance. And you're not just concerned about putting your money somewhere to make money. You're concerned to put your money somewhere so that money goes for good purposes. It has an impact on some field or some area, and you want to invest in the right things. Like I have people sometimes who come in and say, I don't want to invest in that company because they do this, and maybe they've seen a 60 Minutes report or something like that. So maybe you like to get you like to have a pretty investment portfolio, and that's okay if that's what you want. Now, statistics have shown that there's a price to that, because the ESG funds, a study came out about 18 months ago now, and that study showed that if the ESG investing, there's a little bit of a price to that because you're not going to make as much money as you do with some of the other things, but you've got to invest in what you want to invest in. The costume that you wear for Halloween last night, tonight, whenever you go to Halloween, it's got to match you. You got to feel good in it, okay? And so if you feel good with ESG investment, then you need to talk to your advisor. You need to talk to us. You need to come in. We can put you in that stuff that makes you feel good because of where you're investing.
Yeah, some people are getting more into faith-based investing or just values aligned, right? So certainly nothing wrong with that. And of course, we're talking about what your Halloween costume might say about your financial standpoint here with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management, 855-526-1600. Now, Tom, to be honest, I said I'd probably go as Mick Jagger, but the reality is I'm typically a last-minute kind of person. I'm usually the one that wife says, all right, we're going. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to go. So I'll grab a camera, put it on my neck and put on a hat and just say that I'm a photographer, or something cheesy, right? I don't put any real effort.
You got to have a Hawaiian shirt.
There you go. Put on a Hawaiian shirt and just claim to be tourist. Exactly.
Yeah. I understand. You're lazy, Mark. That's what it is.
I can be when it comes to that thing, yeah.
Okay, me too, because I don't necessarily like to get into it. Oh my gosh, my kids have gotten the opposite, because all my kids just really love to dress up, and they are good. One of my daughters and her husband went as Napoleon Dynamite, and they looked the part. I mean, they were to the T,
Nice.
And so, but I'm not. I'm like, what do I have to wear? And finally, I usually go into my closet and pick the ugliest shirt I've got, and I like the idea you just gave me of just having a camera over me, because then that does make me look. And a lot of people invest that way too. Let's call it lazy investments. They don't take the time to really, I've got plenty, or they think I've got plenty of time to address that later. I'll get around to it. I'll do that. And they're lazy and they put their money in the 401k. Some people don't even ever look at it. They put their money in an investment with an investment advisor. They don't know what kind of risk they're taking. They don't know what they're investing in. They just get lazy, where you can't afford to do that. That money, like we said earlier, that money needs to go to work for you, and you can't afford to let it be lazy, because 2% a year, 1% a year, 3% a year, say it's just a little bit. Over a period of years, you take just 3% a year times 30 years of investing, that's a 90% difference right there. So it is humongous. You can't afford to be lazy with your costume, or you can't afford to be lazy with your portfolio. You've got to be actively looking at it and building that thing and making that money work for you. That's the kind of person you need to be working with, is somebody who's going to be helping you do that.
Yeah, the set it and forget it definitely is not a good way to go for sure in that regard.
Right.
All right, last one, Tom, before we jump out and take a break. You go with something classic Halloween costumes that you see all the time, right? The Wicked Witch from Wizard of Oz, or, just a pumpkin, something like that, right? Some classic stuff.
Nobody's going to get excited and nobody's going to get disappointed. Nobody's going to think that you went all out, and nobody's going to think that you're
phoned it in,
like you and I are. We're
right.
lazy, okay?
Yeah, okay, all right.
You like things that are tried and true. And
middle of the road.
Vanilla,
okay,
you know what
right.
I'm saying, or blue chip. But there's some things you need to do. You could do a lot worse, but sometimes you could do a lot better. Now, when it comes to investing, we're jumping off the Halloween costumes here. You need to know your risk score. You need to know the risk score of your portfolio. How much risk am I taking? Because since 2009, we've had some pretty good years, Mark. And some of you have gotten lazy with your portfolio, and you think, well, the stock market's always going to go up. But from 2000 to 2002, and also during 2008 and around that, the market went down during that period about 50%. Here's the question you've got to ask yourself. If you're lazy on this thing, or cute on this thing, or last minute on this thing, or risky, scary on this thing, what's going to happen if the 6-month period right before you decide to retire, your portfolio in your 401k goes down 50%? Because it has happened twice since the year 2000. That's what most people can't afford. It's an out-of-date approach, okay? You might be using something that's always worked before, but it doesn't work for you right at the end. That's where you need somebody like us. We've majored in financial planning for retirees. We make no mistake about our hanging out our shingle and saying we work with people who are in retirement, close to retirement, about to retirement, to make sure your money lasts as long as you do and you have sufficient income, but also so that you pay as little as you're legally required to pay in taxes. Don't be lazy, don't be scary, don't be classic, don't be cute. You need to have focus during this time to make sure you make that transition from accumulating that money to preserving that money so that it lasts as long as you do. Here's what we offer. We offer you a retirement blueprint where we will take your specific information and build a plan for you so that you can have that ability to go to sleep at night knowing you're never going to run out of income and you're going to pay as little as you're legally required to pay in taxes. I'll tell you what it costs you today. It costs you a little bit of skin off your finger. You've got to punch in the numbers that Mark's going to give you. Call in, get on our schedule, leave us a message, call in, and we'll call you back and put you on our schedule of one of our advisors, and we will help you build that plan.
And that number is 855-526-1600 to get started today. It's just that simple. You got to pick up the phone and let them know you'd like some help, and they'll take it from there. Get you set up for a time that is convenient for you in one of those 5 offices. So 855-526-1600. That's 855-526-1600. There's more to come today here on Ease Into Retirement. So stick around. We'll be right back. Back here for more of Ease Into Retirement with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management, serving you here in Southern California. Find him online at mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's mosleywealthmanagement.com, MOSLEY wealthmanagement.com, or just call 855 526-1600 for your retirement blueprint. That complimentary written retirement blueprint today. Get started, get rocking and rolling, 855-526-1600. All right, Tom, I'm going to put you under fire again on this segment. We're going to have a little fun. Little Aesop's fables. They can teach us a lot about life and money. So I'm going to set you up with a classic fable, and you break it down for a moral of the story and how it relates to financial strategies and planning, okay?
That sounds good to me. I'm the storyteller that everybody talks about me, and they understand me as a financial advisor, as a dad, as a husband, as a friend. They always say, Tom, you've always got the greatest stories. So let's see if this works.
Okay. Well, I know you're going to be familiar with these. Most people are. Oh, there was one or two here that might catch people off guard, but we'll start with the miser and his gold. First off, are you familiar with it?
I am. I like the story.
Okay. All right. Well, here's the story for folks who might not be. There was a miser who used to hide his gold at the foot of a tree in his garden. Every week he used to go and dig it up and gloat over his riches. A robber had noticed this, went and dug up the gold and ran off with it. When the miser came to gloat over his treasures as he usually did, he found nothing but the empty hole. He raised an outcry, and the neighbors all came running to see what was wrong. He told them how he used to come and visit with his gold, and one of them said, "Do you ever take it out?" And he said, "No, I just come and look at it." So they said, "Okay, well, come over here and look at the hole. It will do you just as much good as what you were doing before." Do you get the moral?
Yeah. Here's my illustration on this story and the moral of this story. If you've got it and you just sit there and look at it, what good does it do you?
Right,
okay?
Right. It's just the hole.
Here's what I think happens. I think a lot of people that are great savers, they're a wealth building machine, and some of you may feel like you're in this situation right now, or you may be married to somebody who was a wealth building machine when they were working, and they built a substantial amount of wealth. But now that you've made that transition into retirement, you're scared to death to turn the switch and start spending that money.
To touch
you know?
it,
Yeah, you just want to look at it. You just want to worry about it. And when I dig deeper, what I find is if you're sitting out there and you're in that situation, the most likely plan is you've just got an investment strategy and you don't have a real retirement blueprint. You don't have a plan as to how you want to spend that money, use that money, or leave that money. And that's what is involved in a retirement blueprint. We look at your income, we adjust it for possible inflation, we look at your investments and the risk score, taxes, and how much you're going to have to pay in taxes, what you might be hit with in the way of health care, and then finally legacy, how you're going to leave that to your kids, your heirs, whoever you want to leave it to. So you're sitting there with just an investment plan because that's everything you've always had, and you want to grow it because that's what you've always done. But I've said on this show many times, it's not so much your growth rate in retirement on your portfolio, it's your withdrawal rate, because you need to spend it. You need a bucket list. You need to go do the things you need to do and want to do. So many people come to us and they've been with another advisor who was just an investment advisor. He was just trying to make sure they didn't run out of money with a hope strategy, hope it lasts, and they didn't really have a plan. Well, you need to not just look at the money in the hole and dig it up and look at it every month when you get the statement. You need to have a spending plan as to how you're going to use it to go to Bora Bora and Fiji and go to Europe and to go ride the canals in Venice and go see Lake Como in Italy. And you can tell already, Mark, I love Italy, and but so many people just want to look at it and they're not sure they're going to have the money when they're 85 years of age. And my fear for them, Mark, is that you're going to be out there and you're going to have all that money when you're 85 and you're going to say, well, now it's time. We should have spent some of this money. But you don't feel like doing it and you don't have the health to go do it and enjoy it. That's what happens when you dig it up and look at it and bury it back and don't use it and spend it. I call the 3 stages of retirement the go-go stage, right when you first retire, the slow-go stage when you slow down a little bit, and the no-go stage where you can't go anywhere. Before you get to the no-go stage, you need also, as built-in part of your financial plan, a spending plan so that you can dig it up and use it and go do the things you've always wanted to do. That's what a retirement blueprint will help you do.
All right, great job with the miser and his gold, as I figured you would do. Now, I'll go to an absolute classic that everybody knows, just in case they weren't familiar with the miser and his gold, The Tortoise and the Hare. Right? Aesop's Fables is what we're talking about here and doing a little financial spin on this. So, of course, everyone knows the hare was once boasting of his speed in front of all the other animals, and he's never been beaten, right? I challenge anybody here to race me, he says. And the tortoise says quietly, I accept your challenge. That's a good joke, says the hare. I could run circles around you. All the animals laugh, right? Because the tortoise is so slow. The tortoise says, well, let's race. So, of course, the race was run. The hare, we all know, runs off, gets way out ahead, lays down, takes a nap, right? We've all heard this. And the tortoise just keeps doing what he does, plodding along. By the time the hare wakes up from his nap, he realizes he slept a little too long and he can't win the race. So, what's the moral, Tom?
Well, I see several things in that, Mark. I see a lot of people, and you're sitting out there and you're 50 years old, and you're like most other 50 years old. When you turn 50, there's something about that 5-0. It's not just Hawaii 5-0, it's retirement 5-0. You hit that 5-0 and you think, oh man, I haven't really focused on my 401k or paying off the house or even buying a house. And you're sitting there and you say, we focused on the kids. They've all played soccer. The girls have all danced, and the guys have to play all the sports, and they have to go to Vegas for a tournament every other week. And they have to do all of those things. And you don't have any money because you've been like the hare. You went to sleep. You said, I've got plenty of time. I'm quick. I can do this. I can pull this off. And then you wake up and you're 50 years old and you say, wow. And that tortoise is just over there taking a step every paycheck, a step every month, a step every year. They move closer and closer to building enough money to have a retirement plan. Slow and steady wins the race. A very good friend of mine is Dave Bach, who's written 13 New York Times bestsellers on financial advice.
Wow.
And he's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I mean, he wrote The Automatic Millionaire, The Latte Factor, those kind of books that you might have seen. And Dave's got a saying, I don't know whether he coined it or just made it popular, but it's not timing the market. In other words, just getting in at the right time and buying the right thing. But it's that slow and steady time in the market.
Yeah, wasn't that Warren Buffett, actually, I think?
I don't know,
yeah.
But Warren is older than Dave, so it might have been, okay? But I know this. I know Dave has it in almost every book as a principle of what he does when he's teaching people to really lay down some bricks, as the old saying goes,
yeah.
and really make some progress. And I think so many times we think we're the hare, we can pull it off at any time, but those people who are sometimes really quiet, my neighbor across the street's got a turtle and in the backyard, and they can't even find it sometimes. and because it camouflages, you don't even know it's there. He's not aware, but that thing has just grown. I see it about every 6 months or so when we go over for an event or something that they're having.
Get big, yeah.
They get big and they get bigger, and he said, we don't even know it's back there. And that's the way the tortoise sometimes operates. You're just slow and steady. Every month you're putting away money for retirement, even at an early age, and you just are slow and steady. You never stop. You never race. You never rush, but you're just slow and steady, and it is so good. And you can't just time the market and pull something off. A lot of people this week, oh man, I want to get in NVIDIA now because it's up like 50% in the past.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. It's been amazing because it's one of the big AI stock and everything. Well, I tell people, and I told several people this week, the time to get in NVIDIA was before it did all this jump. You know what I'm saying? And slow and steady, just buying into it over a period of time. And that's what I'm doing with my own portfolio, with some of the money that I've got. And I'm so happy that I was in it before it hit, you know what I'm saying? And if you wait till it hits, it's too late, like the hare would always jump, and go. I have been in the woods when you've seen rabbit and you startle them, and sometimes they'll jump 4 feet high, straight up in the air when you hit that rabbit or you make a noise and you startle it. I've never seen a turtle jump. They just always are real slow and real deliberate. You want to be the tortoise, you want to be the hare. Read the story. Who wins?
Yeah.
The hare always loses, even though it's arguably, without a doubt, the most speedy, the fastest, the best for racing. But that tortoise wins because they're always at it.
Yeah, a lot of tried and true things in the financial world certainly are there for a reason, right? And they have been for a very long time. So some of those pieces certainly are things that you got to take into account. And that's part of the stuff that you'll talk about with a retirement blueprint conversation and getting that written blueprint together. 855-526-1600 if you'd like to make that phone call and get yourself some time on the calendar. I think we can do one more time before we jump out and take a break. Are you familiar with The Dog and His Shadow?
Oh, yeah. This one is so cool.
It's a good one as well, right?
Yeah.
So this sounds like one of my dogs, actually. A dog had a piece of meat, was carrying it home in his mouth, and on his way home, he had to cross a plank lying across a little running stream there, a little piece of wood he was crossing to get across the water. As he crossed, he looked down and he saw his own reflection in the water, and of course, he thought it was another dog with another piece of meat in its mouth, and he decided he wanted that piece too. So he snapped at the dog, and of course, what happened? He dropped his meat in the water, never to be seen again. Pretty simple moral here, Tom, but what you got?
Sometimes it's more important to hold on to what you got rather than trying to get more.
Trying to risk it, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get to retirement, Mark, and they make that mistake. They've always been into growth. They've always worried about their growth rate from the time they were 20 years old until they were 65 when it comes to investments. When you get to retirement, it's your withdrawal rate that's more important. And how much am I taking out? And am I secure so that if we do have a downturn, that I'm not going to lose what I've got? I'm an old football coach. I'm old, and I used to coach football, so I qualify on both ends of that, okay? And when you're up by 3 touchdowns with 2 minutes to go, you don't need to score more points. You just need to let the clock run out. And a lot of people get to retirement, and they've got enough money to let the clock run out without ever worrying about it. But they start looking at other things, and they think, if I divested of this and jumped into something else, I might be better off. Well, if something's been tried and true for you through the years and it's been really solid, it may be too risky for you to still have in retirement. You might need to make some changes, but you need to be really, really careful about just always trying to get more. It's a human nature for us to do that, but sometimes you have to realize by having a plan that you've got enough. You just need to relax in what you've got and go enjoy it. Now, putting the stories together, dig it up and use it. Okay? Don't wait too late to try to build it, but hang on to what you've got. Not always when you're in retirement. Try to grow so much more as you want to sustain, and use what you've got. A good overview for retirement transition.
Yeah, obviously you've got to get a plan, get a strategy together, and work that strategy. Of course, things are going to change. Life's going to change. Things are going to happen, and that's the point of having annual reviews, consultations, and all that good stuff. So get started today at 855-526-1600 with your complimentary written retirement blueprint with Tom's team of all-star advisors and his amazing support staff. They've been serving you there all around Southern California, but they got offices in Anaheim, Arcadia, Encino, Ontario, San Diego. So give a call, get onto the calendar, 855-526-1600, or even just do the Zoom thing to get started. But either way, reach out to the team today. Now, there's more to come on Ease into Retirement, so stick around. We'll be right back. Back here for more of Ease into Retirement with Tom Mosley from Mosley Wealth Management. He's the founder, and he's serving you right here in Southern California with his 30-plus years of experience in the financial sector and his team of all-star advisors and amazing support staff helping create that fantastic and seamless experience for his clients. And you can get yourself onto the calendar and come in for a consultation and a review at 855-526-1600. Get that complimentary written retirement blueprint underway at 855-526-1600. Or you could also visit him online at mosleywealthmanagement.com. Tom, I mentioned a minute ago that you've been doing this for 30 plus years. And so that, being a good advisor isn't always just about, giving good news. I'm sure you love that part of it. I'm sure that's the part you like to do more times than not. But sometimes it also means uncomfortable conversations How do you navigate some of these trickier pieces, Tom? Like, obviously dealing with, major life events that are going to happen, because this is a tough business that you naturally are in, because things like the loss of a loved one is going to happen, right? I mean, that's usually probably the toughest and biggest conversation you have to deal with is how do you handle or deal with the finances upon the death of that first spouse?
Several things on that one, Mark. That is a tough one. If you're going through that right now or have gone through that, and somebody who's gone through it might say, that happened 5 years ago, but I'm still going through it because it's a lasting impact.
Sure.
And I've never done it myself and never lost a spouse myself. But I want to tell you this, the ones that do go through it, it's traumatic in many, many ways. And I don't want to make it in a trivial approach. I don't want to make it shallow by talking about the finances, because it's much deeper than the finances.
Sure.
There's the emotional aspect. There's the loneliness. There's all of the other things that are involved there, especially if you had a great marriage and you were there. And this doesn't always have to be within a marriage. Sometimes I've got ladies who have a great friend and they've traveled the world together, and one of them passes away, and the one who survives is like a lost puppy. You know what I'm saying?
Sure,
because it's not just always within a marriage, but within a marriage, when that first spouse goes, there are impactful things that are going to hit you. Let me just rattle off a few.
And you got to deal with them too, Tom, right? I mean,
yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not being insensitive. It's just the reality of life.
Yeah, I mean, I tell people to try to take a break for at least 3 months, maybe 6 months before you make any major decisions. But if you lose a spouse, you're coming up on a tax change, because probably 98% of the people I deal with do married filing jointly if they're married, and they go to a single tax bracket the year after the loss of the spouse. That is a big impact on your taxes.
After 40 years, right, you're just kind of used to, you're an autopilot. And then all of a sudden you go to this new bracket, you don't even realize it.
Yeah, you go from like a 22% tax bracket at about $100,000 of income when you're married. You hit that 22% tax bracket at $50,000 when you're single. And all of a sudden you are single. It impacts your Social Security. Yes, the larger Social Security stays, the breadwinner, but the smaller Social Security goes away. I've got a lot of couples who each of them make $3,000 a month on Social Security or more. And when you lose $3,000 a month in a retirement income, big impact. Big impact. Pensions. It impacts pensions. Sometimes not everybody takes their pension where it's 100% to the surviving spouse. Health insurance has changed. Sometimes, particularly when a spouse goes early and you leave a 59-year-old spouse here, and the 59-year-old had their health insurance through the employment of the one who passed away. So you've got to find health insurance, and it's a different plan. Long-term care becomes more important. You say, what? Yeah, because there's a lot of things that a couple can care for each other over. But when you're single, you have to have some outside help to do that. Oh, yeah, a lot of people don't think about that. Your home may be, instead of that thing that you always enjoyed and loved, it may now be a millstone around your neck, because you've got to take care of it. And you've got to, make sure the lawn's done, the pool's done, the repairs are done, and all of those things. And then probably directly financially involved is you start overseeing finances, and you've never written the checks. You've never paid the bills. And the spouse who passed away is the one who paid the bills and who took care of everything financially. So a lot of changes take place when that first spouse passes away, and you don't even know the changes, and I haven't even touched on all of them in these last few minutes that I've talked about it, but it's big. And that's why a lot of people, just had a couple 2 weeks ago, came in, and the guy is a really good self-investor, but he said, I can do this, but I might not always be here, and if something happens to me, I want my wife to be in a relationship with a financial advisor that she can trust, so that if something happens to me, we just continue without a beat. And he looked at me and pointed across the table, and he said, and you take care of her. Okay, and that's exactly what we do with hundreds of families and hundreds of couples.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great resource right there, right? If for some people, and it seems to be that's, almost the Murphy's Law of it, where the one person who passes first maybe was the one who was doing a lot of that stuff. And the other person is just, it's not their thing. And they've just never been that involved, or, they have maybe a working knowledge of it, but it's great to have that resource to go, okay, help me with these pieces. What do I do next? Right? Because you're already emotionally distraught anyway.
Every couple is different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
On the things that I named, there are 8 or 9 things I named there. There's some couples that the surviving spouse does really well with 3 of them, but doesn't touch the other 5.
Great point.
And stuff. Yep. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's hodgepodge. It can be, for sure. And like you said, unfortunately, it's going to happen. We all check out of this hotel at some point, right?
Right.
So you have to deal with it. So that's a tough conversation. And along those lines, Tom, we kind of started with the big dog there, if you will, of the tough conversations. But there's several other places where it gets tough. Maybe before that happens, you've got to deal with some sort of a long-term care event. And a lot of times the tough conversation is, what if that is destroying the potential retirement for the one who is not suffering the long-term care event? The other person goes into a care facility, then maybe they pass, but it's depleted the retirements, right?
Yeah, I mean, going into a nursing home in Southern California, according to 2 things. According to my mother-in-law, going into a nursing home, now it was 13 years ago before she passed away, and to clients who come in who have their parents in nursing homes. Just recently had a great client. They had to go to Texas and get one of the parents and bring them back here because one had passed away. They brought them back here, put them in a nursing home so they could watch over them here close. $10,000 a month is what the normal cost is. So that's going to deplete the savings for, if it's a married couple, that many times depletes the savings. If you don't have long-term care, say, Medicare take care of that? Not at all.
Yep.
I mean, custodial care, they don't take care of. Some skilled nursing, they do. So you got to plan on, do I need a policy? Do I need a plan? You need a plan whether you have a policy or not. A policy is where you pass it off to an insurance company, but those things can be pretty expensive and hard to qualify for. So you need a financial plan built within your financial plan, a what-if plan that if something happens to Mary, what does George do? And if something happens to George, what does Mary do financially to survive? Definitely a tough conversation. Definitely something you need to have that tough conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we're talking about here with Tom on this section of Ease into Retirement, 855-526-1600. Tom, it could be a simpler but still tough conversation. People come in for that first, for the review, for the blueprint. They go through the process. They're excited to find out that they're going to be able to retire next week. One of your all-star advisors there has to give them the tough conversation and news that you're going to have to work a little longer, right? Unfortunately, it's not quite where you need it to be to achieve the goals. That's a tough one.
Yeah, we like to make people happy. We like to help people retire. We like to tell them they can retire. One of the tough things we have to do as advisors is sometimes we have to sit across the table and do exactly what you just pointed out, Mark. And I want you to know that we're not going to, if you're out there listening, like a lot of people listen to this show for a year, 2 years before they finally come in, when you come in, we will be honest with you. If you need to work longer, we had 2 cases I know this week where we told people, yeah, I know you want to retire, but you need to work longer. Somebody's got to be honest with you and tell you, you can't just do whatever you want to do. You hadn't been able to do that really since you were a kid, and you can't just do that when you retire. You've got to have somebody look at the numbers and show you the numbers and say, yeah, you can afford to retire, or maybe you need to work a little bit longer, build that social a little bit better, build that IRA, that 401k. And so many times, Mark, and you're sitting out there, and I think most people really know whether they're financially astute or not, whether they're up to snuff with understanding things financially. And many times it's those people who really don't understand finances, but you haven't done what you need to do, and you're just looking for the right financial advisor to try to tell you what you want to hear rather than what you need to hear. I want to tell you something. That's not what you're going to get from us. We're going to tell you what your situation looks like. Here's why. We want to walk with you completely through retirement. We're not interested in selling you something. We're interested in building a plan for you and then walking through retirement with you. Our process is get a vision of where you are. We call that the envision meeting. A, analyze your situation. S, if you decide to work with us, put together the strategy. And E, that's called Ease into Retirement, the name of the show, the name of everything we do. E is evaluate on the end to make sure every year you're on track to make sure it's working. We don't want to come on and captain the USS Titanic, if you understand what I'm saying. And if you're not going to make it, we want to tell you before it's too late and you walk out of that job. Come see us. We'll help you. We'll tell you the truth, but we will help you make sure you're ready to retire when you want to retire.
Yeah, we all would love to have great conversations with our advisors, and hopefully, and most times they are, but sometimes you have to be prepared for the tougher ones, and that's why it's important to act now so that if you do have some tough road ahead, you can get started on it and get it going in the right direction sooner rather than later. So reach out to Tom and his team of all-star advisors and get that retirement blueprint underway at 855-526-1600, 855-526-1600, or if you want to attend one of the events we talked about earlier, go to mosleywealthmanagement.com and click on the Seminars tab to RSVP. mosleywealthmanagement.com or 855-526-1600. We'll be right back. Cruising down the home stretch this week here on Ease into Retirement with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management. And we're going to take some email questions, as we usually do, from folks just like you all around the area. And if you'd like to drop a line into Tom and the team, just go to mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's mosleywealthmanagement.com, or call 855-526-1600 to get your questions asked and answered. And that way you can have a chat about your specific situation with your own complimentary written retirement blueprint with Tom's team of all-star advisors, 855-526-1600. All right, Tom, let's see if we can help out Carl here first in the Burbank area. He says, Tom, I have 3 adult children in their 20s. We paid for about half of each of their college tuition because we weren't sure how things would land with our retirement savings at that time. Now they're all graduated and have some remaining school loans. We're wondering, should we help pay them off? How does that look, or how should that work?
Carl, this is a touchy one. It's a very careful one. You've got to be careful here. You've got to take care of yourself. And if you paid for half of their college, I'm just trying to read into the email you sent. If you paid for half of their tuition, they had to pay for it from some other way. Maybe the student loans paid for all of it. Did they have a job? Do they have a job? Did they major in something that they can actually pay back the education that they got and that they received? So you've got to make sure, and this is something that I'd like to speak to more than just Carl out there. There are a lot of you who are trying to put yourself in a position to help everybody else. And so many people that are retiring right now, you're in your 50s, you're in your early 60s, and they've even coined a word called the sandwich generation, because you've got kids that are still at home and you've got parents that are coming back to live with you at your home. So you're in the sandwich. And who's paying the bills for most of that? Carls, okay? The Carls of this world, not Carl's Jr., but, the Carls of this world in Burbank are paying for that. So, Carl, you've got to be very careful and build a solid financial plan for yourself. You need to be the anchor of the home. You didn't say anything about your parents, but you did say something about your kids. Can you afford to pay for Carl and also pay for the kids? Or is it time to let the kids learn some tough lessons about life that they will be benefited from forever? And that is, hey, I'm in my 20s. It's time to grow up. It's time to pay for things for myself. It's time to have the challenge of paying something off. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that we're running into in the past 2 or 3 years is everybody thought they were going to have most of their student loans paid off, so nobody paid anything on them. But all during that time, they were charging more and more and more interest on some of them if you had them at certain banks and certain places. So you need to get those student loans paid off. Figuring out if Carl's got enough money to take care of Carl for retirement. You don't want to spend all of your money for everybody else and then turn around and try to live off of everybody else. You want to make sure and take care of Carl. So that would be my recommendation. why don't you come in to one of our offices? You're in Burbank, so you're real close you're right between our Arcadia office and our Encino office. Come in and meet with Roberto or Jeff or Aaron or one of our great advisors in those areas. Come in and meet with them. Let them build Carl a retirement blueprint to make sure you're on path. Then we'll see how much extra money's there to help pay for the kid's student loan.
There you go. 855-526-1600. If you're like Carl, get onto the calendar. Come on in for a consultation and a review. 855-526-1600, because you can finance just about anything, but not retirement. So you got to take that into account and get that strategy and that blueprint underway. Tom, I'm going to give you this last one. Then I'm going to roll it into a little bit of a call to action setup for you. Okay. So Jack from La Mesa says, I can't wait to retire from my job, but I have constant fear of the markets having a big downturn right after I leave the workforce, kind of that Murphy's Law thing. So how do I overcome my fears? And so, Tom, he needs to ease into retirement. A strategy will help you deal with some of these fears, I think, because you'll see it in black and white. Can you break it down for us a little bit?
Yeah, we talk about on the show all the time. Call in one of our 10 all-star advisors who are all fiduciaries, 5 offices across Southern California. We'll meet with you by Zoom. We do that often with people. We'll build you a retirement blueprint based on where you are and what you have. Jack, that's what you need down in La Mesa there, okay? Let me tell you where we start. We start by looking at when you walk away from your job, what kind of income do you need, and what kind of income can you sufficiently have from the portfolio you've built? So we will go through and look at your Social Security. It's just the reason we do so many Social Security workshops. We want to make sure that everybody's getting that big chunk of retirement income in the right way and getting the right amount, the best amount for them, the optimal amount for them. The maximum, we all know, wait till 70, but you may need it before then. That's why we say your situation is different than Bob at the water cooler or Sally in the break room. We build your income plan. That's one of the first, that is the foundational first thing that we do. That income plan has to be adjusted, number 2, for inflation, because we're going to have inflation. Inflation is about 3% last month. The cost of living is going to be about 2.8% adjustment on Social Security for this coming year. You've got to factor in inflation. Are you drawing money from a pension that's flat? Over a period of time, that pension will produce less and less buying power because of inflation. So number 2, you've got to consider not just income, but you've got to inflate that through the years. Number 3, the retirement blueprint addresses your investments. Where are your investments? Are they too risky for you at your age? What if there is a 50% downturn? What are you tolerant to inside? That's your risk tolerance. What are you able to stand and be able to sleep at night as far as being X amount of risk? Or you want to take 40% of the risk of the market, 60, 80? Can you afford to do that? We want to match up your portfolio to your risk tolerance with your investments. Number 4, your taxes. How much are you going to have to pay? All my money's in a 401k, Tom. All my money's in an IRA. It's not all your money that's in there. Some of it belongs to the government. So your taxes, that's part of a retirement blueprint. How much are you going to have to pay in taxes? How can you legally pay less? Is there a way to strategize to do that? There is. Let's address it. Number 5 is healthcare. How are you going to pay for your Medicare? You want Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement? How are you going to pay for long-term care? Because that's separate. How are you going to pay for those prescription over-the-counter drugs? All of that is separate. Healthcare is really important. And then finally, number 6 is your legacy. Once you've lived your life, how are you going to leave your money to the proper heirs that you want to leave it? Those are all the things that we will build into your individualized personal retirement blueprint. Don't call and ask for one, because it's not a printed out material that we give people. We build it with you based on what you have. And yours is so close, you could actually have it done by the end of 2025. If you just call in today, get on our calendar, and let's work to put this thing together.
All right, folks. Well, as we wrap up the show, it's 855-526-1600 to get your retirement blueprint. Great questions this week. Thank you so much, folks. Get on the calendar. If you're having similar situations or you've got a situation you know you need to deal with, take the action for yourself today and get that retirement blueprint. 855-526-1600. That's 855-526-1600 to help you ease into retirement. For Tom Mosley, I'm your host, Mark Killian. We'll see you next time here on the program.
Mosley Wealth Management is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management, Inc., MWM. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership. License number 0K76766. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal, and any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Mosley Wealth Management, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Wealth Management. This radio show is a paid placement.